to remind you that the virtual mini-plenary is deemed to be in the precinct of Parliament and constitute a meeting of a National Assembly for debating purposes only. In addition to the rules of the virtual settings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of debate, applies. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in the sitting of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said in the virtual platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to mute their microphones and only unmute when recognized to speak. This is because the mics are very sensitive and will pick up noise which might disturb the attention of other members. When recognized, honorable members, to speak, please unmute your microphone and where connectivity permits, connect your video. Members may make use of the icons on the bar at the bottom of their screens, which has an option that allows a member to put up his or her hand to raise point of order. The Secretariat will assist in alerting the presiding officer to members requesting to speak. When using the virtual system, members are urged to refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order or interjections. Lastly, honorable members, I wish to remind you that we are meeting in a mini-plenary session, and therefore, any decisions will be made in the full plenary session of the Assembly. The first item on the order paper, honorable members, is a subject for discussion in the name of Honorable Hlengwa on building a culture of accountability and responsibility to balance with the proper exercise of constitutional rights and freedoms. I now recognize Honorable Hlengwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. As South Africans came together at CODESA to negotiate a way forward, as well as their vision for a new democratic South Africa, the Inkatha Freedom Party, led by our founder and President Emeritus, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, advocated for, amongst others, a constitutional court, independent organs of state controlling the executive, and the recognition of indigenous and customary law, and importantly, the need for a Bill of Rights. As the IFP, we therefore feel very strongly that each citizen is entitled to exercise their constitutionally mandated rights and freedoms, as well as the protections that such rights and freedoms provide. However, individuals cannot expect to enjoy these freedoms without recognizing that with rights comes responsibilities, more so when an individual has influence. Members of the Fourth Estate, like politicians, speak to the people, and their words can influence perceptions and decisions. Unlike many, however, they are meant to speak on behalf of truth, not a particular worldview or political ideology. It is therefore essential that members of the press provide information to the public in a balanced way, based on facts and without the inclusion of personal preferences and biases. Unfortunately, there are journalists and editors who use their platforms to drive their own agendas. One such journalist is the former editor of the Sunday Times and current editor-in-chief of City Press, Mondli Makhaya. For decades, he has been using his public platform to defame the IFP's founder and President Emeritus, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. He has publicly called Prince Buthelezi, amongst others, a butcher, a mass murderer, and bloodthirsty. It is important to note that there is no evidence.
Honorable Hlengwa, just a second. Honorable members, please mute your mics, please. You are interjecting the speaker on the floor. Thank you very much. You may proceed, Honorable Hlengwa.
Thank you, Chair. It is important to note that there is no evidence to support any of Mr. Makhanya's allegations. Prince Buthelezi has never been accused, arrested, tried, or convicted for murder. Thus, to call him a murderer is automatically slander and defamatory. Despite such extreme defamation, Mr. Makhanya has never been held accountable for his lies, nor has he been successfully stopped from publishing them. Even in the instances where Prince Buthelezi has been granted a right of reply, such cannot remedy the damage caused by the editor's article. The editor of a national newspaper has a significant position of influence and power, and Mr. Makhanya abuses his power by using this platform to carry on a personal vendetta. As the IFP, we wish to state that we respect the Constitution, including Section 16, which provides that everyone has the right to freedom of expression, which includes, amongst others, freedom of the press and other media. However, if Mr. Makhanya cannot accept the responsibilities that come with his rights, there should be at the very least mechanisms to hold him accountable and others accountable. South Africa does have a press code which demands, amongst others, that in the gathering and reporting of news, the media shall take care to report news truthfully, accurately, and fairly, and present news in context in a balanced manner without any intentional or negligent departure from the facts, whether by distortion, exaggeration, or misrepresentation, material omissions, or summarizations. Prince Buthelezi has submitted multiple complaints to the press ombud and attempted to exercise his right of reply. In the pursuit of accountability, the IFP chose to exercise its right to peaceful protest and marched to the offices of the City Press in September to hand over a memorandum calling for Mr. Makhanya to cease and desist from his persistent defamation. In preparing for the protest action, the IFP took responsibility for its actions and followed the letter of the law, notifying all those involved, amongst others. At this point, the South African National Editors Forum, in response to the intended march, issued a reactionary press statement. SANEF, by rights, should be the fiercest advocate for the right of freedom to press, to be balanced with the responsibility to provide information based on facts, not fiction. Yet instead, SANEF claimed the IFP's march constituted bullying, intimidation, and was a dangerous idea. Indeed, labeling the exercise of our right in this way in itself was an act of bullying and intimidation by SANEF. When the IFP previously approached SANEF to raise the issue of Mr. Makhanya, they claimed that they could not intervene. Yet in issuing the statement, that was an intervention in itself. Here you have a body tasked with accountability, yet unable to make and take their own to task. If the interest of upholding our constitutional, in the interest rather, of upholding our constitutional democracy, we must acknowledge that persons cannot hide behind their rights to avoid being held accountable, nor can they hide behind being held accountable to uphold their rights. For our democracy to flourish, it is our duty as this House and as society to ensure that we consistently work to build a culture of accountability and responsibility in all areas of South African society. It is our duty in this House to advocate publicly that rights must not be abused and that rights come with responsibilities. A society built on a lack of accountability has got no progress. A society that does not take responsibility has no progress. And we hope that those charged with the responsibility of rights and the privilege of rights will be able to honor their rights and responsibilities for the greater good of the national discourse. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Hlengwa. I now recognize the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, Honorable M.D. Mahlobo. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members. Within this debate, our caucus were asked to look at the developmental status of a vehicle towards realizing constitutional rights and the freedom of all. South Africa is a constitutional democracy and a government that strives to serve all the people in the country. Our constitution set out the core functions of government and the division of responsibilities and powers between national, provincial, and local government. We are a unitary state wherein policy and oversight in the main is at a national level or a central government. The democratic developmental state can be viewed as a state that pursues higher levels of socio-economic development in a participatory manner by a robust long-term plan and a state that has a requisite capacity The elite is a development in its approach influenced by developmental ideology, and the state is appropriately organized for predetermined objectives. I want to quote that since the advent of democracy, the RDP paper says that no political democracy can survive and flourish if the mass of our people remain in poverty, without land, without tangible prospects for better life. Attacking poverty and deprivatization must therefore be the first priority of a government, I close quote. Our constitution further enshrines social, economic, and environmental rights that must be advanced and protected and realized progressively through government deliberate policies and programs, especially the developmental state. Our country has a long history of divisions and conflict throughout the years of colonization and apartheid. The state played a key role in maintaining inequality and protecting the privileges of the minority. Since the birth of democracy in 1994, the country has faced incredible challenges to overcome the legacy of the past and meet the needs of the people today. Apartheid left the country with not only a divided society, but also with a very unequal one. In most towns and cities, the landscape still shows a society with huge inequalities and sharp differences between rich and poor. We have had a housing backlog, we had issues around crime, even the wealth that is still being divided on racial lines. Unemployment figures are high, depending where you stand, between 30 to 40%, which measure that we are using. Our challenge that we face as government was to build a strong economy that can provide job and opportunities for all the people. This is a long-term project, and there are many other things that need to be done to make sure that government creates a better life for all, for the people now, by providing better access to services like healthcare, education, employment opportunities, water, and others. Well, we are committed in building this developmental state that effectively guide the national economic development by mobilizing resources of the society and directing them towards the realization of common goals. We place the needs of the poor and social issues such as healthcare, housing, education, and social safety net at the top of the national agenda. As government, we understand that alone, we cannot grow the economy, solve all the community problems, or deliver in all the services to bring about a better life for all our people. Government is working together with all social partners, is involving everyone in an effort to develop our country in what we refer as the People's Contract. Is a phrase that sums up what we normally do. A forum like NETLEC, the Growth Summit are all some of these mechanisms that we are using to involve our citizens for the benefit of our country and our people. We are also playing a much stronger role in establishing a clear, measurable, and time-bound targets for common programs and monitoring and their implementation. We continue to establish in government institutional and organizational capacity that we have for effective and efficient structures and systems to realize our goals. We know that over the last few years, our institutions have been hollowed, they've been working out, and steps have been taken as we speak right now to rebuild the institutions, and in progress is being made to improve the systems and structures with each sphere of government and national government that is to provide the necessary cohesion to deliver the results that are required. We are re-establishing and building our technical capacity as a state to improve our ability to translate broad objectives into programs and projects and to ensure their implementation. We have adopted a district development plan during this term of the administration to make effective use of intergovernmental and integrated planning across government and between different government departments. All of these tasks require a strong emphasis on the state human capacity to carry out its work. Over the last 28 years of our democracy, we've witnessed some areas of poor performance, but also areas of strong performance. Many South Africans, they depend on the state to lay the foundation of a successful economy and a stable society. We, as the ANC-led government, cannot determine the country's growth trajectory and the kind of society we envision on our own. We've managed to build the foundation of a truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and a prosperous society, as envisioned in the Freedom Charter, the Constitution, and the National Development Plan. South Africa has made remarkable progress under the ANC from the transition of apartheid to democracy. In nearly every facet of our lives as South Africans, advances are being made in building an inclusive society. We are rolling back the shadow of history and broadening opportunities for all. South Africa has been able to build the institutions necessary for a democratic and transformative state. Access to services has been broadened. The economy has been stabilized, though there are challenges as we speak. And the economy has grown since 1994 to about triple or quadruple. We are on track in actually ensuring that the society is becoming non-neutral. Millions were previously excluded have access to education, water, electricity, healthcare, housing, social security, and poverty rate has declined, and average income has grown steadily in real terms. We've intervened on behalf of the poor, the marginalized, and the voiceless through our transformative policy. In our country, the poor are reliant on the ANC-led state and have the most to lose when the state fails to deliver. Since 1994, we've pursued policies with vigor that are resonating with the imperatives of a developmental state as espoused in the Constitution. But we are the first to admit that we have not gone far enough to address the stubborn triple challenges of unemployment, inequality, and poverty. Public confidence, as we speak now, is very low because of corruption, malefacence, and incompetence. And these issues are being addressed by the state president. And we are going to renew our country. We are collectively going to correct our missteps. We are aware that certain aspects that this has negative impact on the poor in terms of quality of lives and access to opportunities. To accelerate progress and deepen democracy and build more inclusive society, South Africa must translate political emancipation into economic well-being, and it's up to all of us as South Africans to fix our country for the future. We all yearn and aspire a South Africa where everyone feels free yet bounded to others, where everybody embraces their full potential, where a country opportunities determined not by birth, but by ability, education, and hard work. Realizing such society will require transformation of the economy and focus efforts to build the country's capability. The opportunities coming out of Ukraine conflict, COVID-19, and climate change require us to make a shift on how we address these issues, and we have the capacity to address them. On our shoulders as leaders, we bear the biggest responsibility to build this nation for the sake of the next generation. We should draw our inspiration from Nelson Mandela when he said, like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made. It can be overcome and eradicated by the actions of humanity. Madiba then further said, do not look the other way. Do not hesitate. Recognize that the world is hungry for actions, not words. Act with courage and vision. These people that are trapped in poverty right now, we as a collective of public representatives, we must set them free. We have the political will and the wherewithal to tackle these areas where the state is failing to deliver, but this we should threaten our aspiration. But the NDP and our constitution, they remain our North Star. Ours is a mission to liberate our people from all socio-economic bondages.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
And set them free through our collective
Your time
efforts,
has lapsed, Honorable
not
Minister.
competition and hatred. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable TM. We'll now proceed to recognize Honorable R.A. Elias. Over to you, sir. How Mazamba?
Amen.
Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. there will be very few South Africans who do not believe that there has been little or no accountability for malfeasance in South Africa over the past 15 years. Most South Africans would probably blame politicians, and in a very real sense, they are correct. Certainly, the Zondo Commission found Parliament to have been delinquent in this respect. Whilst there is much rhetoric in Parliament about accountability and so-called consequence management, a term that is a favorite amongst ANC MPs, there are seldom, in my opinion, never members of the executive who are held accountable. Even in Scopa, that has the legacy of the arms deal debacle and the brave actions of Ken Andrew, Gavin Woods, Andrew Feinstein, and Barbara Hogan to follow, has failed to hold a single member of the executive to account. When ANC Scopa member Mervyn Dirks, whatever his agenda may have been, proposed that President Ramaphosa be held accountable for his public statement that state budgets had been used for ANC party funding, the members of the ANC in Scopa simply voted against summoning President Ramaphosa and let him off the hook. Retribution against Honourable Dirks followed swiftly with his summary removal from Scopa and his subsequent disappearance into obscurity. With no delay at all, there was immediate consequence management for Mervyn Dirks, but President Ramaphosa, the perceived icon of the fight for accountability, was chup still, as Honourable Dirks was given his marching orders by the ANC. During a Scopa meeting on the Beitbridge border fence debacle, Honourable Masipa Nqakula, the then Defence Minister, justified the actions of soldiers to allow the fence to be cut in order to give illegal entry into South Africa for Zimbabweans, as well as to give the illegal entrants from Zimbabwe rides in military vehicles to do their shopping and to visit clinics in Messina. When the DA attempted to ensure that the recommendations in the Scopa report on the Beitbridge border fence washing line included action to be taken against Honourable Masipa Nqakula, the ANC refused to include any such recommendation. This report that was ATC'd in November 2020, some 2 years ago, still has not been adopted by Parliament. A discussion on accountability failure would be incomplete.
Chairperson, the name of the speaker is Honorable.
Is that a point of order, Honourable Member?
I'm just correcting that it's pronouncing the surname of the speaker wrongly.
Noted, Honourable Member. Although it's not a point of order, you may proceed, Honourable Lees.
Ngiyabonga ke sihlalo. A discussion on accountability failure would be incomplete without mention of the failure of Honourable Pravin Gordhan to be held accountable for the SAA Takatso deal that he announced some 17 months ago. Despite numerous attempts during Scopa meetings and through written parliamentary questions to get details of the SAA Takatso deal, Honourable Gordhan has steadfastly refused to provide details and to be held accountable for the moral wastage of some 14.7 billion rand to keep SAA operational as a failed SOE. One can't but wonder what is being hidden in the stonewalling by Minister Gordhan. Even Dudu Mnyeni, the delinquent director of SAA, used to provide full and detailed replies to questions. But Honourable Gordhan, the state capture crusader, just refuses to give substantive replies. Despite some clucking of tongues from some members, Scopa has allowed Minister Gordhan to escape accountability for 17 months. Madam Chair, a culture of accountability is yet a far-off dream that will require a very different parliament before it is accomplished. As Alan Paton wrote in 1948, the year that gave birth to apartheid, so too today do we lament, cry the beloved country. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I now recognize Honourable C.N. Mkhonto. Honourable Mkhonto.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, when South Africa voted in 1994, and when we adopted the Constitution in 1996, many of our people thought that the country had entered a new era, one in which elected leaders and those given powers to administer the affairs of the nation will do so with utmost respect of the people of this country. The people as a whole expected a government that will be in touch with the aspirations of the nation, a government that responds emphatically to the desperate cry for basic needs by the majority of our people. Very few people expected the ruling party to descend to the levels of filth it has now descended to. Early on during its reign, the party in government showed a middle finger to the people as it watched hundreds of thousands of people die while the government refused to provide life-saving HIV medication. The principal architect of that genocide is walking around pretending to be a voice of reason today without any ounce of shame. To this day, there is no accountability for the many lives lost of HIV/AIDS denialism. There is no accountability for the lives of the mental sick people who died at life accidentally. Rather, we see low-level functionaries being hounded, while the politicians who took the decision and who may have benefited from the crime are walking free. There is no accountability for the death of so many of our people who get killed by police during service delivery protests. There is no accountability for Andri Statane, who died fighting for water for his community. Perhaps the greatest tragedy that has befallen this country after 1994 is the cold-blooded murder of 34 mine workers in Marikana. After now, President Ramaphosa called their protest a dastardly criminal act and called for concomitant actions by the police. In response to this call, the police mauled 34 black fathers, brothers, uncles, and husbands in Marikana and killed some of them after hunting them down like wild animals in the Kopi. To this day, no one has been held to account for these dastardly cold-blooded acts, and the person who called for concomitant action is now president of the country. Marikana is just one of the president's many sins. Under his administration, the country has been plunged into darkness. The people overseeing ESCOM, Mr. Pravin Gordhan, Mr. Andre Reuter, and Mr. Jan Obelholzer are stumbling along like headless chicken, and no one is holding them accountable for the mess that ESCOM has become. Mr. Gordhan is leaving a trail of destruction wherever he goes. He destroyed SAA and sold it to his friends for a pittance. He destroyed a prime arms manufacturing giant in Dinel. Now he is finishing off ESCOM. No one is holding him accountable for this, making a mockery of our democracy and constitution. The Minister of Finance was accused of sexual harassment and used his powers to block a thorough investigation into the crime. The biggest scandal since 1994 has to be the president being criminally accused of keeping huge amounts of foreign currency in his farm, stashed under mattresses. And when he's got stolen, the president is accused of instructing people to kidnap his farm workers, assaulting them, hunting those who stole to illicit money using state resources, then bringing them not to disclose the monies they've stolen. Despite all this evidence, Mr. Ramaphosa still goes around pretending to be fighting crime and corruption. There is no accountability of any kind that should be expected from the ANC. Under them, the country has sunk into the deepest level of rot ever seen. There is no accountability for the highest level of unemployment in history. No accountability for the rampant crime, the rape, the murder, and the killing of children and women. The only way the country can rebuild itself is to rid our politics of the ruling party and install a new government driven by interest of our people. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable Zet Majosi. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Can I keep my video on?
You sound very far. Can you come closer to your mic, please?
I am still far even now.
Much better. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
I'm saying, Chair, can I keep my video off? I have a problem with network. I'm on the road.
Okay.
Yes.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It is unfortunate that a general lack of accountability and responsibility are characterized, shaped by leadership, structures in government, as well as the media. For the country with a progressive institution such as ours, this is of an extreme concern. This same constitution affords individuals and entities their rights. However, the responsibilities that accompany those rights do not often receive the same attention. That shouldn't be the case, more especially when the same responsibilities serve to balance the exercise of rights by bigger institutions. Processes of learning and relearning when it comes to the rights and responsibilities that we all exercise should be at the forefront of our society. And the press should lead by example, as they carry particularly social responsibility when it comes to our communities who look to them to provide information. We have seen the press exercise their freedom of expression. However, we have also seen them fail to hold themselves accountable in meeting the responsibilities that come with that right. An example of this is my colleague, Honorable Hlengwa, shared is on the ongoing defamation against IFP founder and President Emeritus Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, perpetrated by City Press editor M Hlengwa. Another example is the infamous public relations firm, Bell Pottinger, who, through the manipulation of the media on behalf of the Gupta family, was accused of, I quote, inciting racial intentions and operating fake Twitter accounts to mount racially driven campaigns, I close quote. It is clear that this type of behavior poses a danger to society, as well as the persons falsely reported on. We should not need to remind the media of the important role they play in the society as a source of information, and neither should we be reminding them of the accountability measures they have to exercise to ensure that their work does not infringe on the rights and freedoms of others. We cannot continue to build a country that houses exceptions to accountability when it comes to powerful institutions like the press and media. Jay Baudel captures the essence of today's discussions when he said, I quote, an overall social responsibility for the quality of press service to the citizen cannot be escaped, I close quote. And we believe that it also should not be ignored. The media, just like our government, have to acknowledge that they have a social responsibility to the public. The liberty the press enjoys through the freedom of press and the right of expression through media should and must be exercised. However, it should also be exercised with the caution that it is accountable to the people who consume those news.
Honorable Majosi, are you done? I guess so. Thank you very much, ma'am. I now recognize Honorable F.J. Mulder. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. House Chair, on the websites of the South African government and various other departments, it is published that the Constitution of South Africa is the supreme law of the Republic and that it provides the legal foundation for the existence of the Republic. It sets out the rights and duties of its citizens and defines the structure of government. The Bill of Rights is a cornerstone of democracy in South Africa. The Bill of Rights applies to all law. It binds legislature, the executive, the judiciary, and all organs of state. Voorsitter, toe ek onlangs in hierdie huis aanhalings gebruik het uit die boek van professor Koos Malan met die titel There is no Supreme Constitution, het die minister van Justisie onder meer hewig en ontkennend reageer. Die Suid-Afrikaanse grondwet word telkens vertolk en toegepas in lyn met die politieke agenda en doelwitte van die regering. Agbare voorsitter, die woorde staatskaping, korrupsie, wanadministrasie en swak wetstoepassing word deesdae en daagliks vrylik gebruik in hierdie debatshuis, in die media en in elke Suid-Afrikaanse huishouding, met die groot frustrasie dat daar net eenvoudig geen gevolge is. Ten spyte van die bevindings en aanbevelings van die Sonderkommissie was daar tot nou weinig vordering met die verloop van vervolgings na blaatante diefstal van belastingbetalers geld deur amptenare in magsposisies. Honorable Chair, accountability means that Parliament, government, the executive and officials should show a willingness and obligation to accept responsibility for actions. The culture of entitlement that currently exists in South Africa is well promoted by the ANC government is a you owe me attitude. One where people believe that society, a company or a government owes them something and that they do not have to earn or deliver any value for what they receive. And Honorable House Chair, that is exactly why the South African economy is under pressure. The culture of entitlement and blame shifting has become the main agenda, and often the only agenda, and common sense suddenly is not so common anymore. Agbare Voorsitter, Suid-Afrika sal sy huis in orde moet kry. Die Suid-Afrikaanse kieserspubliek het nie meer vertroue in die huidige bedeling, juis vanweer die feit dat die regering nie verantwoordbaar is en dienslewering oor die algemene laagtepunt bereik het. Ons het heelwat verlore aansien om te herwin. Ook by die internasionale gemeenskap. The culture of entitlement and blame shifting must be replaced by a culture of accountability and responsibility in line with the South African Constitution. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize UDM. I guess you are not on the platform. I've been advised that ATM is not on the platform. We shall proceed, honourable members. Now I recognize Honourable ERJ Space.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable House Chairperson, what happened to accountability and basic rights when we have a local government that is broken? Running a municipality is not rocket science. Ask Umgeni Mayor Chris Pappas, how do you get from 133 households receiving free basic services to 3,005 households receiving free basic services in 1 year, paying off a 10.4 million rand loan in only 11 months, saving ratepayers 450,000 rand in interest for the year? A lack of competence and capacity due to a lack of skills, qualifications and innovation contributes to the failure of governance. Lack of rule of law, a legal system that is unable to provide sanctions for officials and political office bearers that engage in corruption. Political instability, cadres that don't grasp the horrific impact that their incompetence and criminality have on their fellow human beings. And I believe they just don't care. In that aspect of the total disregard for human dignity, is there much of a difference between what is happening to our people now and what happened then? How do you justify a municipality paying an employee that is never reported for duty since day one a salary from December 2016 to July 2019? Corrupt officials suspended for 4 years with full pay while sitting at home with no disciplinary processes in sight. The position of a director corporate services being vacant for 4 years because a deployment committee of ANC cadres doesn't agree with the appointment recommended. How do you approve and regularize irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure of over 400 million rand, taking into account that this irregular expenditure resulted from non-compliance with supply chain processes? Where is the consequence management in this? Where is the oversight from councillors? Who do these officials account to? Senior managers and staff from the Auditor General reportedly being threatened and intimidated by municipal officials while on site during an audit. Where have you heard of a municipality being closed for 5 weeks? What happens to the services to the residents of that municipality? This is how broken local government under ANC rule is in our country. Where is the accountability in all of this? For how much longer must the people of this country be drawn into ANC infighting? The battle of our crooks are better than your crooks. Deploy capable and competent cadres. You have them amongst you. But it seems being competent in the ANC is a prerequisite for being demoted. Part of mature and responsible leadership is to take unpopular decisions. It's time to get your house in order. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Tim Gweba. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair, and good afternoon, honorable members. House Chair, professionalization the public service through capacity building, improving accountability and transparency are critical elements in building a capable and developmental state. South Africa is a developing country with persistent challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. The challenges that our society faces requires dedicated and professional public service. However, let me recap what we entail by a capable and a developmental state. As depicted in the National Development Plan, our interpretation of a capable developmental state as the African National Congress government has always been clear. There is no capable state without state capacity, which includes having adequate human resources and requisite skills in driving the state machinery. Capable means implementing policies that serve the interest of the nation. This deals with the structures, processes, systems, and governing instruments at a macro level. Developmental in that our policies as government focus on overcoming the root causes of poverty and equality and building the state's capability to fulfill this role. Our policies are developmental and respond to the needs of our people. However, strategies in implementation still need to improve through adequate and qualified human resources. As the African National Congress, we've understood that building state capability is one of the most significant steps in achieving a developmental state. We have recognized and remain adamant that a developmental state will bring about a rapid and sustainable transformation in our country's economic and social conditions through intensive and effective intervention in the structural cause of economic and social underdevelopment. As the ANC government, we are constantly striving in improving the quality of life for all our people. A developmental state requires a well-run and effectively coordinated state institution with skilled public servants who are committed to serving our people and capable of delivering high-quality services. The ANC government is aware of the challenges that our public services assist with. A capable human resource is one of the challenges that our public service experiences, and this hampers the effectiveness of government plans and programs. A meritocratic and professional public service is one that is built on skilled and qualified public servants in all spheres of government, and has a recruitment and selection processes where managers at senior levels should be based on experience and expertise, while at junior levels, the focus should be developing the skills and expertise that will be necessary. Lack of skills, qualification, and expertise are challenges that the ANC government diagnosed in the public service that results in fractures in the implementation of government programs and policies. That is why we persistently work tirelessly to ensure that these challenges are resolved in the public service through the implementation of the professionalization framework of the public service. House Chair, we must consistently invest in the National School of Government and encourage public servants to take opportunities presented by the National School of Government, capacity building courses, and the progress of the NSG. The NSG must continue to provide support for talent management across the spheres of government and provide governance for appointment, succession planning, and career development. Honorable House Chair, the NSG must be repositioned to be a center of excellence that produces the most talented, professional, and qualified public servants. We live in an ever-changing global environment, and we need public servants that will navigate the country in both internal and external international challenges. However, House Chair, a professional public service requires a special public servant. In fact, it requires a public service cater. And what do we mean by a public service cater? A public service cater is one that upholds the interests of our people and serves our people with diligence and professionalism. A cater dedicates loyalty and patriotism to the people that it serves. A cater embodies the character of servitude to its people. The public service cadre we are referring to must not only regurgitate to the Batupile principles, however, but they also need to ensure that the Batupile principles are the lived experiences of our people. With that said, we need to move with speed in fast-tracking the professionalization of the public service that will resolutely respond to the needs of our people. We need to attract and recruit skilled and public service cadres that have the relevant requisite skills and qualifications. We welcome the fact that professionalization framework has been adopted by the cabinet and that the lead department will finalize its implementation plans before the end of the current financial year. House Chair, we note the challenges of the political interface in the public service and recognize the instability and impact it has on the public service and service delivery. Ours as the ANC government is to stabilize the political administrative interface. That entails becoming more stringent with the prescripts that declare the separation of roles, such as the Public Service Act and the Public Administration Management. House Chair, having an accountable and transparent public service is what the ANC government is aiming to achieve and has done through the implementation of lifestyle audits. However, we must strengthen the implementation and conduct of lifestyle audit and ensure that they are implemented across all government departments. The implementation of lifestyle audits is a way of mitigating the challenge of public servants conducting business with the state. And our promise of a transparent and accountable government, all those that have been found to be conducting business with the state must be held accountable. The conduct of the public service must never be overlooked. Public servants have the responsibility to uphold the code of conduct, and face the consequences when breached. This applies to all public servants. Honorable House Chair, lack of transparency affects the integrity of government and has led to corrupt practices that rob our people of the service to that they are entitled. South Africans should experience the Batupile principles and not be told of them. I thank you, House Chair and honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mhlengwa. I now recognize Honorable A.M. Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me start off by saying I am glad that speaker after speaker recognizes the challenges we face in South Africa as far as accountability is concerned. So I think what is very clear that we all know and understand that we have a problem. And the question that arises is then what are we doing about ensuring that we are all accountable? It's easy to come and attack one another, but I can assure you that everyone, wherever they govern, do not hold their people accountable. One of the solutions, I repeat, will be separate politics from administration completely. Yes, on paper, that's the way it's supposed to be. It is not the case. Let no politician have anything to do with appointing anybody, whether it is a tender, whether it is an official. Keep politicians out of it if you want accountability. But Chairperson, when we want to talk about accountability today, 28 years later, why are we not talking about the accountability pre-1994? When many people today, even sitting in this parliament, also colluded with the apartheid regime. If you remember, Chairperson, tens of thousands of blacks were massacred in this country because of the collusion between some individuals and the apartheid regime. We've just heard of the case of Imam Harun, which the inquest is currently on its way. Like that, there are so many of these people that have had no closure. Then the next question is, did those people that negotiate on our behalf negotiate in the interest of the country? How is it some of them have enriched themselves to such an extent that today we have selective accountability in the country, that some of them pay the ultimate price and others just seem to be getting away with it? Now, if we want to talk about accountability, then don't you think, Chairperson, it should start with us? And I want to say, and that is why as the NFP, I requested repeatedly, give us in the last 2 or 3 years, all those contracts that have been awarded in local government, starting KwaZulu-Natal. And Chairperson, you will be shocked what you will find. And the very same people are now going to talk about accountability. So if you want accountability, the AG's report is telling you clearly how many people have been held accountable. How many people that you have ensured there were consequence management for? Very little or none of them. So people still tend to get away. It needs to start, Chairperson, with each and every one of us to take responsibility to ensure that all of us are accountable. Thank you very much. I can see you want me off. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Cope, Honorable PAC. I now recognize Honorable Z.N. Mbele.
Ngiyabonga Salonga Phambili. Our constitution is clear that members of the cabinet are accountable collectively and individually to Parliament, and this accountability is exercised through written and oral questions, as well as committee meetings. However, there are still gaps and weaknesses in that framework, which are hindering the process of building a culture of accountability and responsibility in the public sector, and specifically through our oversight mandates as members of Parliament. A long-standing and very big gap in the system is the lack of a portfolio committee on the presidency. The DA has long held that a single hybrid portfolio committee for the DPME and DPSA, among other entities, cannot do effective oversights over those two departments. And our position has recently been vindicated by the recommendation of the Zondo Commission on State Capture, which says that Parliament should consider the desirability of establishing an oversight committee on the President and the Presidency. By having two portfolios on one committee, it means that the finite time available in a given year to perform oversights on each basket of ministries and entities is split in half, which is further diluted by the fact that Minister Gungubele himself rarely appears before the committee. And before someone thinks to point out that the President does account to Parliament through oral questions, it should firstly be highlighted that this is only 4 times a year, and therefore not enough. And secondly, that ministers also have oral questions, but they also have to appear before and directly account to portfolio committees. The President and Presidency should be held to the same standard, if not higher. The Phala saga clearly demonstrates the need for a dedicated presidency portfolio committee, because that would have been the obvious and ideal first port of call of a parliamentary platform to interrogate and probe the scandal as an oversight exercise. In addition, Parliament needs an avenue for follow-up scrutiny and oversights of the litany of presidential projects and initiatives that are announced in the SONAs and the various presidential convenings, such as the GBV summits that happened last week. Of course, and as always, it is the DA that is setting the standard where we govern, because in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, there is a dedicated standing committee on the Premier. And so, as Parliament takes forward the process, we will draw on this benchmark model from the Western Cape to implement the needed parliamentary reform.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable M. Tseki. Over to you, sir.
Chairperson.
And you request to switch off your video.
Honorable Chairperson.
I'm saying you are requesting. I'm saying you are requesting to switch off your video. I guess so.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I'm not even aware that it's off.
Okay, you may proceed.
Maybe I'm using the same gadget. Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, no problem. Continue, Honorable Member.
Honorable Chairperson, the past Tuesday, driving school owners protested not against the traffic officials demanding bribery fees, as you might expect, but against an increase in a bribery fees demanded by traffic officials. There appears to be nothing wrong with paying the bribe for driving school owners, a student, to pass their driving licenses. In other words, paying a bribe is part of, in that part of the country, has become a daily interaction between the driving school owners and the traffic officials. Honorable Chair, the protest by these driver school owners demonstrate a lack of consciousness on their part, since their ability to continue getting new clients solely depend on bribing traffic officers and not on their ability to train people how to drive safely, pass their driving licenses without bribery. Speaking on the 10th anniversary of the democracy of South Africa in 2004, the late former president, Ntate Mandela, was at pains to acknowledge that even though we have made much progress on the reconstruction and development of our country, what we have left behind is the reconstruction and development of our soul. He said the following, I quote, "Values of human solidarity that once drove our quest for human society to seem to have been replaced or threatened by crass materialism in pursuit of social goals for instant gratification," close quote. Complained Ntate Nelson Mandela. The protest by the drivers owners demonstrate that what was said by the president was describing that the mentality of many of South Africans, of society in the driving school fraternity, is to get rich quicker and at the expense of human lives that would be lost on the accident due to impaired driving. Chairperson, acts of corruption and unethical behavior have permeated all facets of our lives, whether at home, at church, at workplaces. Today, we are no longer shocked to hear of a pastor or a teacher or a colleague and even a family members that have been arrested on acts of fraud and corruption or one way or another. That is what we call normal abnormality. The clarion call for the RDP of the soul, as it's needed today than it was said by the former president, as he instructed the nation to undertake the process to restore human solidarity, respect of each other, and the rule of law. The call for the RDP of the soul involves restoring the values of Ubuntu Botu in our society. In our quest to restore the values of Ubuntu Botu, the South African Constitution is our first point of reference. The Constitution is embedded in building an egalitarian society to protect the rights and freedoms of all. The rights and freedom are two sides of the same coin as responsibility and accountability. The words of the people's poet, Mzwakhe Mbuli, once said, I quote, "Ukulimala komzimba kukulimala komuntu, ukulimala komuntu kukulimala komphakathi, ukulimala komphakathi kukulimala kwesizwe," close quote. Collectively, we are responsible for advancing our society's moral regeneration with ethical and moral consciousness for the better and more inclusive political economy. Chairperson, we must acknowledge the vibrancy of civil society in our country, as demonstrated in the last couple of years when we faced state capture phenomenon. Civil society organizations, political parties, citizens at large in the country exposed corruption with the government and state-owned enterprises. They pushed for the establishment of a state capture commission as recommended by the former public protector. The president recently has tabled an implementation plan for on the findings of the commission. Parliament has also already begun the process on the recommendations. Parliament, the three spheres of government and civil society organization have a responsibility to ensure civic education is rolled out in our communities, not just for ticking the boxes in their annual programs, but to strengthen participatory democracy. Communities should be empowered with information what actions a community member should undertake when encountering fraud and corruption in the public or in the private sector. All spheres of our democratic state should work with all of civil society like the FBO, workers, business, and law enforcement agency against extortion and corruption. Chairperson, as we all agree that the fight against corruption is a societal matter and cannot be left to the law enforcement agencies alone. If it were not of the brave people that we saw in the State Capture Commission, on the countless and others, we may have not have known about the extent in which the state capture and its and the entities of the state has. We must commend those South Africans for what they have done for their country, and we need more people in their caliber, of that caliber in the society, the people with morals and ethical structure. Chairperson, having the courage to expose fraud and corruption has all manner of things, including the possibility of being threatened with your life. Recently, it has come with the attention of many comrades or whistleblowers who have been threatened when they exposed the corruption in the public sector, and in particular, in many different companies in our country. As the African National Congress, we welcome President Ramaphosa's announcement on the step that our country is undertaking to ensure the safety and security of whistleblowers in our country. We are calling upon the law enforcement agencies to act swiftly against those involved in killing of Mr. Peña and those involved in the failed assassin of Mr. Mashele and many others that we could remember of. Honorable Chairperson, the IFP dares not to stand in front of this House and talk about the government being corrupt. There are mechanisms that as a state we have in government that the IFP should have consulted. If you look at the pointing fingers at the government of today, the IFP must be reminded by their own statement of their president, Ntate Mangosuthu Buthelezi, when he said in the conference in 2020, he said the following, I quote, "The people trying to get into position next year, which he meant 2021, there will be new mayors. They want to have people that they can manipulate and loot the coffers of municipality," close quote. We have noted at Pongolo and Abakulusi municipality that are led by the IFP, where we have experienced a lot of extortions and bribery. Even the community stood up against the mayors in those two municipalities. And I must correct the IFP chair that the IFP is knocking at the wrong door. If they could take what they've quoted in terms of CODESA and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights as stated by the Freedom Front, in there are many areas in which the IFP can use in addressing the issue of where the media is defaming their own president. Among them is to take these matters to court. But to go only on demonstration and the like, that will not result.
Honorable Tseki? Honorable Tseki, it seems like we lost you. The network has ejected you, unfortunately. That will bring us to that I recognize Honorable Hlengwa.
House Chair, I will be taking on behalf of Hlengwa. He is now in a flight.
Okay, and now you must come closer to the mic as well.
Oh, okay.
And switch off the radio, ma'am.
I'm trying to connect via Bluetooth so that you are able to hear me. Are you able to hear me now?
No, you may proceed, Honorable Member. It's we have to listen tentatively. At least you are audible. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The IFP, we have to start rigorously promoting and enforcing the building of a culture that holds accountability and responsibility amongst the press, media, and leadership and oversight entities to the highest of levels. It has become apparent that the media and press have started to lose sight of the responsibilities that come with being a source of news, and entities such as the Press Council of South Africa and the government should hammer down on holding the press accountable. We as the IFP call for a better regulation for the press and media in the country, and for the government to nurture the values of accountability and responsibility in all avenues of the society. And as the IFP, we want to see a government that believes in Ubuntu, a government that is transparent to its voters. I urge all organizations that have been given power of deciding for voters in 2021 to behold the oath of being accountable and transparent, not those that people have lost hope in, and even IEC have stopped funding to come here and grandstand when they themselves are facing issues of inability to manage municipalities, and come here to grandstand when they are facing internal ill disciplines and squabbles, to point out they even have parallel structures in their own organization. And I want members here to listen, stop listening to respond, but listening for an understanding and then respond later. What is happening here? People are grandstanding, and whereas we did not point on municipalities, we spoke of accountabilities. As much as KZN, what is happening, it's happening everywhere in the ANC. What is happening in Free State, where there's dysfunctional municipalities? What is happening in Northwest, where there is dysfunctional municipalities? So people must not come here to grandstand, but people must come here for solutions. That is why the IFP, it is always the chosen organization, because we come up with solutions. We do not come up with problems. We do not behave as if we still want to be voted in, but we act as an organization that has been voted in. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Majosi. Honorable members, that concludes the debate. We shall now proceed to the second item on the order paper, which is a subject for discussion in the name of Honorable P A van Staden on the prevalence of corruption, poor management, and incompetence in the public health care, which has led to the violation of constitutional rights of patients, backlogs in medical procedures, and multitude of medico-legal claims. I now recognize Honorable P A van Staden. Over to you, sir.
Geachte voorzitter, Section 27 of the Constitution states clearly that everyone has a right to have access to healthcare services, including reproductive healthcare, and no one may be refused emergency medical treatment. Chairperson, it is clear that the current government is clearly in violation of Section 27 of the Constitution. Our state and provincial hospitals are currently in such a mess that the lives of patients and doctors, nurses, and others are seriously being jeopardized in terms of their constitutional and human rights. It is sad to say that the ANC government has over the years turned our state and provincial hospitals into butcheries and mortuaries. Corruption, mismanagement, maladministration, and the incompetence of government to sort out the mess that has led to the death of our public healthcare system is a big concern for all South Africans. When loyal public servants is assassinated for blowing a whistle in the Gauteng Department of Health, we have come to a point where action is urgently needed to completely eradicate corruption and mismanagement. We must ask the question, how many other whistleblowers out there are just too scared to speak out? When the lives of patients are on a threat due to these sort of practices, action is urgently needed. Die afgelope 8 jaar besoek die VF+ gereeld staats- en provinsiale hospitale regdeur die land, weens klagtes wat gereeld vanaf die publiek ontvang word. Wat die VF+ die afgelope 8 jaar gesien en beleef het in hierdie instellings is om die minste te sê uiters skokkend. Die afgelope naweek het die portefeulje komitee vir gesondheid oorsigbesoeke gebring aan verskeie hospitale in die Oos-Kaap. Wat ons daar aangetref het, was niemand op voorbereid nie. Hierdie hospitale was nie net in 'n uiters swak toestand nie, maar walglik om te sien en te ervaar. Hierdie hospitale en vele ander reg deur die land is 'n duidelike voorbeeld van Suid-Afrika se openbare gesondheidsorg wat heeltemal vernietig is. Die hospitale val letterlik uitmekaar uit. Dit is 'n voorbeeld van die ANC-regering se onvermoë om Suid-Afrika effektief te regeer. Slegte reuke in die hospitale hang so swaar in die lug dat 'n mens nie behoorlik kan asemhaal nie. Dit is vieslik, vuil en 'n absolute skande. Dit was so erg dat selfs my ANC-kollegas begin huil het oor die toestand van hierdie instellings. Hierdie is nie net 'n probleem wat beperk is tot die Oos-Kaap nie, dit kom landwyd voor in al die provinsies. Pasiënte wat aan banke vasgeketting word in die hospitale se gange, wat op vloere in hospitaalgange lê omdat daar nie genoeg beddens beskikbaar is nie, wat vir dae sonder kos en water gelaat word in die afwagting op operasies, wie se familie self al wonde in hospitale moet skoonmaak, wat met oop wonde gelaat word en dan later sterf weens infeksie, is maar enkele van die gruwels wat in ons openbare fasiliteite afspeel. Die onbeskikbaarheid van noodsaaklike medisyne waar kankerpasiënte nie gehelp kan word met chemo nie, maar huis toe gestuur word, is kommerwekkend. Die agterstand van mediese prosedures in hierdie fasiliteite staan tans op 175.000. Dit is 'n toonbeeld van die regering se ongevoeligheid teenoor sy landsburgers. Swanger vroue wat met geboorteskenk voor 'n kliniek se hek, mediese dokters wat 'n keuse moet maak oor wie gaan lewe en wie gaan sterwe, omdat daar nie genoeg mediese voorraad in hierdie hospitale is om pasiënte doeltreffend te behandel nie, en pasiënte wat 7 jaar in pyn en lyding moet verkeer, omdat hul heupvervangings dan eers kan plaasvind, is niks anders as 'n waaglike dobbelspel met mense se lewens nie. In June of this year, P van Staden has requested the Human Rights Commission to investigate the inhuman treatment of patients that took place in state hospitals. We have launched a public campaign where we have asked the public to come forward with such complaints so that government can be held accountable. Chairperson, the number of complaints that were received from the public was shocking. A huge number of people have reacted on our call and have provided the Freedom Front Plus with sufficient and trustworthy evidence that shows a real and accurate picture of our state hospitals. It is no wonder that medico-legal claims against the Department of Health holds a current value of 125 billion rand. Money that could have been used to pay suppliers on time, to buy medicine and medical equipment that is so desperately needed, and to appoint doctors and nurses that is so urgently needed. Corruption has brought the public healthcare sector completely to its knees. The fact that the previous Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, was involved in the digital vibe saga, where money was looted from the department, and the fact that fruitless and wasteful expenditure is currently standing at a staggering 1.3 billion rand, is a clear indication that this government has no intention whatsoever to provide adequate healthcare of high standards to its citizens. En dit is duidelik dat daar geen werkbare planne in plek is om die haglike infrastruktuur by hospitale en klinieke uit te wis nie. COVID-19 cannot be blamed for everything that has happened in our public health system, although the ANC and this government are constantly passing the bucket and blame to the COVID-19 situation for their failures. So the question is, what do we do and how do we clean up this horrifying mess? First of all, urgent talks are necessary in order to prevent and stop the current situation. This needs to be done by political parties represented in Parliament, the private healthcare sector and the public healthcare sector and other stakeholders in the medical industry. Action plans need to be put in place to hold government responsible and to see to it that government is accountable to its citizens. A plan for a healthcare system which incorporates both the private healthcare sector and the public healthcare sector must be developed to ensure that all the medical professionals across South Africa work together to put such a system in place. Our country needs a system developed by medical experts and not by ANC politicians or government officials. The NHI bill currently before Parliament is not a sustainable solution and should be abolished with immediate effect. Kom ons staak die mishandeling van ons pasiënte. Kom ons staak die mishandeling van ons dokters en verpleegsters. Kom ons staak die korrupsie, wanadministrasie en wanbestuur wat hierdie stelsel heeltemal
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. I now recognize Honourable T.P. Munyai. Over to you, sir. Honourable T.P. Munyai.
I must apologize because my my network here is very bad. May I please, Chairperson, allow me to switch off my video?
Permission granted, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much. Let me do so. Honorable Chair, this debate is not necessary precisely because all the issues Honorable van Staden raised are issues that the Ministry of Health clarified in the Portfolio Committee. Because Honorable van Staden don't listen and want to play in the political gallery, I will attempt to clarify, honorable members and the people of South Africa. This debate takes place when we conducted NHI clause by clause to its conclusion. We now need much more to work hard because there's much more work to be done to conclude the National Health Insurance Bill. It should be noted that this debate takes place after we conducted our oversight visit in Gqeberha. It should be noted that the ANC government inherited the poor infrastructure in African community in particular, and a black community in general, in the township, in the context of the spatial plan of apartheid architecture. In responding to the apartheid spatial plan, for the past 28 years, the ANC-led government built many hospitals and clinics. Going forward, we are responding to the quality of healthcare through the introduction of the universal health coverage in the form and the context of the national health insurance, whilst we collapse the two-tier systems. The NHI white papers notes, open quote, NHI represent substantial policy shift that will necessitate massive reorganization of the current healthcare system to address structural changes.
Honorable Munyai, 1 second. Honorable Basop, mute your mic. Thank you very much. You may proceed, Honorable Munyai.
It's just taking on my minutes. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The NHI white paper notes, open quote, NHI represent the substantial state massive reorganization of the current healthcare system to address the structural changes that exist in both public and private sectors. It reflects the kind of society we wish to live in, one based on the values of justice, fairness, and social solidarity. Close quote. Implementation of the NHI is consistent with the global vision that healthcare should be a social investment, not a capital investment or private sector investment. The white paper also indicates, Honorable Chairperson, that it is underpinned, NHI is underpinned by the Vision 2030 of the National Development Plan, the NDP, which envisages that the 2030, everyone must have access to healthcare standard of care, regardless of their income, that the common fund should enable equitable access of healthcare, regardless of what people can afford and how frequently they can need the use of service. It is imperative, Honorable Chair, that I must also quote His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa also reaffirmed the NHI by the following, Honorable Chair, open quote, the NHI is fundamentally about social justice. NHI will ensure that all our people, whether you are black or white, rich or poor, will enable access to comprehensive range of healthcare services, close quote. Honorable members and the people of South Africa, COVID-19 has brought the unprecedented consequences that humankind has ever seen. It is only that those that are blind or that are opposed to progressive change that cannot see and feel the consequences of COVID-19. In this context, Honorable Chair, Allow me, Honorable Chairperson, to salute the healthcare workers, the backbone and the lifeblood of our healthcare system in the battle against COVID-19. That are our heroes and our heroines. Honorable Chairperson, access to healthcare services, it's a human right constitutionally enshrined in the Bill of Rights. It is imperative that all our people, not the few that can afford medical aid, of which, by the way, medical aid forces them to public hospitals when they can no longer pay out of pocket, when their medical aid diminished. The evil reality of the two-tier system has further disaggregated access to healthcare by class and a consequence race, thus widening the gap insofar as access to quality healthcare is concerned. The NHI is a further embrace. The NHI is the future. Embrace it now. The NHI is the future. Build it now. On the Dr. Nelson Mandela and Comandante Fidel Castro program, the Mandela and Fidel Castro is one of the department's key programs aimed at addressing the skill shortages in the healthcare sectors, and will provide much needed resources for strengthening primary healthcare, contributing to the improvement of healthcare outcomes and ultimately patient experience care in facility. During the oversight, Honorable Chairperson, at the cardiology section of Livingstone Hospitals, I met the Cuban hero, Dr. Valdez Noel, who continues to save the lives of South Africans and introduce excellent patient filing system. Going forward, the Department of Home Affairs should expedite the renewal of the working permits of the Cuban healthcare workers. In fact, I dedicated this speech to the hardworking Cuban doctors in South Africa. We should pay solidarity to Cuba, Dr. Valdez Noel, and many Cuban doctors based in South Africa, in solidarity with South Africa. Over the years, healthcare facilities have been increased in their intake to increase the number of doctors produced from Cuba. Long live Cuban solidarity with South Africa. Over the years, health facilities have increased in their intake, as I said, to increase the number of doctors produced. Long live the spirit of Dr. Nelson Mandela and Commandant Fidel Castro. We welcome the Minister of Enterprise for exempting all our hospitals from load shedding crisis so that we can save life and reduce medical procedure backlog. Healthcare must be addressed as a matter of priority. Some of the key areas that are important in order for universal health coverage to be achieved will include, but not limited to, improved adequate healthcare infrastructure, as we all access quality medical consumable. As recommended by the BRRR, we have urged the ministry to enable fast-track the healthcare infrastructure and medical supplies programs as a matter of priority. The ANC government champion health equity. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable M Hlengwa.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. I'm going to try and keep my video on. I've also got very bad bandwidth here in load shedding. From what we've heard and will hear today, you'd swear that South Africa would be the best run country in the world. A utopia for everyone that calls it home. Given all the members' strong stances against corruption, their adamant assurances that it will be dealt with, but as always when dealing with the ANC government, the reality on the ground contradicts the pretty speeches filled with empty promises. For the millions of people forced to rely on public health sector, their illnesses are merely the start of their problems. After queuing for hours, they are usually faced with healthcare personnel that are overworked and underpaid in clinics and hospitals with unmaintained and crumbling infrastructure. Many public health facilities do not have the necessary equipment or have equipment that's been broken for months and years. They do not have enough beds, medicine, and sometimes even food. And why is this? Because in their infinite wisdom, the ANC government decided that expertise would always play second fiddle to cadre deployment. The public health sector has suffered immensely under mismanagement, corruption, and incompetence. And while this has been detrimental to the public at large, it has been hugely beneficial to the pockets of corrupt cadres and their political connected comrades. While 80% of South Africans continue to be victims of the public health system and often perpetrates the suffering instead of alleviating it, those corrupt crooks are living it up in luxury and can afford private health care with their stolen billions. Even Deputy President David Mabuza refused to be treated in South Africa and flew to Russia for health care. Is it any wonder that medical legal claims have grown over 23% since 2014, and the current value is 125 billion rand? And while the rapid rise must certainly be investigated to root out corruption here, many of these claims could have been avoided with a healthy public health sector. The Auditor General's report revealed irregular expenditure of 1.3 billion rand and an increase of 42% since last year. Surely those responsible would have been held to account, given the many impassionate words spoken against such mismanagement and corruption today. Let me quote the AG. There seems to be no accountability in the department regarding consequence management. No accountability, and there hasn't been for years. You know who has suffered the consequences? Whistleblowers like Babita Dekoran and Dr. Tim de Meyer. Babita Dekoran exposed corruption of 850 million rand, and while she was murdered for her efforts, those responsible for the corruption that led to her death have yet to face the music. There will hardly be a member that comes up who won't mention the tragedy and decry the circumstances that led to this. But empty platitudes will not bring her back, and it certainly won't protect the next whistleblower. Last week, during the oral question session in Parliament, the Deputy Minister of Health announced a collaboration with the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime to establish a policy or a plan to protect whistleblowers and assess and mitigate risks in the public health sector procurement systems. Yet details around this collaboration is scant, and without them, this could easily become another brilliant plan that will never be implemented. If the ANC government was serious about rooting out corruption, it would dismantle the system that it has allowed and continue to allow to flourish. And while Cabinet's quiet abolishment of cadre deployment is a step in the right direction, corruption will continue to thrive in an environment where consequence management is never taken seriously. Unless inept and uncaring managers are replaced with competent personnel who take procurement and SCM regulations seriously, and unless every individual involved with corruption faces the consequences of their actions, the public sector will continue its decline. South Africa needs to punish those that murder and kill, whether they riddle whistleblowers.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Your time is up. Thank you so much. I now recognize Honourable S.A. Tembegwayo.
Thank you, Chairperson. House Chairperson, in 2018, the EFF adopted a program of the Year of Public Health. We adopted the program because it was clear that public health has collapsed in South Africa. Hospitals do not have medications. There are no nurses and buildings are collapsing. We have hospitals and clinics that do not have water and electricity. It is worse in rural areas. We have clinics that closes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon while there is a queue outside of sick people. A woman gave birth outside a Beggarsforth clinic and in October this year. Women are giving birth outside clinics in 2022 under the government of ANC. When we adopted the program of the Year of Public Health, we visited clinics and gave the country a detailed report of the state of collapse. We came here in Parliament and tabled a private member bill to have all clinics open for 24 hours. But it was the ANC and the DA that rejected the bill. The bill was rejected because of some weak reasoning when our people are dying because clinics operate like spaza shops. The bill was rejected without shame, and our people must know that the ANC does not want them to have clinics that open 24 hours. The reasons that we have a prevalence of corruption, poor management, and incompetence of public health is because we have public health care for the poor and the rich. The rich are sitting comfortable with private hospitals that have medication, facilities are clean, and there's decent meals. The rich have medical aids that allow them to go to the best specialists anywhere, while the poor cannot afford basic specialist services. As long as we continue with the health system for the rich and the poor, the public health care will continue to experience corruption, poor management, and incompetence. The EFF is the only party that has tabled a practical and implementable solution to address challenges of public health system. This is included in our founding manifesto. We must do away with the health system for the rich and the public health for the poor. We must have free public health for all. We must build clinics in every ward in the whole country. Where we cannot build wards, we must polyclinics. But at a strategic level, we must refocus the whole public health away from the secondary healthcare system into primary healthcare system. South Africa public healthcare must focus on public healthcare and preventative measures. In this way, we will also reduce the cost of public healthcare. We must develop a clear register of all of us with a clear health profile and history of all conditions. In this way, we will be able to prevent a lot of diseases. Lastly, challenges of public health care will not be resolved by a national health insurance that seeks to depend entirely on a private sector. We need a national health insurance that pools all the resources to develop and build health infrastructure. The EFF will bring back dignity to all through decent and free public health care. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you very much. I now recognize Honorable M Hlengwa. M Hlengwa, are you on the platform? Or if there's a member from the IFP, may you just check Honorable Hlengwa, then I'll proceed to Honorable Vessels, WW Vessels. Honorable Vessels.
Thank you, House Chairperson. House Chair, it is astounding that once again the ANC denies the problem. It's astounding that the Honorable Munyai says that this debate is not necessary. I want him to go and tell the people out there suffering, who does not receive medication, who does not receive treatments they have been waiting for, such as orthopedic surgery, for almost 2 years, that this debate is not necessary. Go and tell them that. He says that the healthcare system or the state of healthcare is being used to score political points. Let me tell the honourable member that unlike himself and his failed ANC government, the plight of the vulnerable is not here being used for political scoring, but it is the plight of the people out there that the healthcare system must be addressed. The state of public healthcare has nothing to do with politics, but the people are suffering, people are dying, but you deny that. The chairperson of the Health Portfolio Committee, the Honourable Kenneth Jacobs, recently said that the state of hospitals are disappointing. in a state of decay and urgent intervention is needed. That is correct. That's where we should start, not with that nonsense. The chairperson of SAMA, Dr. Mzukwa, describes the public health system as a mess. But the Honorable Munyai today revealed the reason for the fact that the public healthcare system is a mess. Because firstly, he looks to the origin of the problem in the past and not the present. He does not admit the hundreds and billions of rands being stolen by cadres, by healthcare, by CEOs of hospitals, by HODs of departments, and by public servants that are not there to serve the people. He proves that the ANC is in an unconscious state of denial and blame shifting. He is of opinion that the solution to our problems lie in the NHI and with Cuba. Chairperson, it is internationally recognized and proven prerequisite for universal healthcare that there should firstly be a functional public healthcare system. You will never fix public healthcare by NHI. Laat ek dit so verduidelik. As my glas lek, dan help dit nie ek probeer meer mense uit die glas uitdrink nie en maak meer mense afhanklik van die glas nie. The NHI will lead to more people to be dependent on public healthcare, and it will finally completely destroy the system. We first need to get our hospitals going. Die ANC en hul korrupsie het hospitale en klinieke vernietig. 'n Hospitaal in die Vrystaat, voorsitter, is byvoorbeeld in 2014 begin bou. Dit het 380 miljoen rand gekos en 4 jaar later was die hospitaal nog nie eens funksioneel nie. Tot vandag toe is daar nog gebreke. Dit is wat die totale gesondheidsstelsel vernietig het. Die ANC en hul korrupsie. U moet dit begin erken en al wat dit werklik gaan oplos is om van die hele spul ontslae te raak en 'n verantwoordbare regering daar te stel wat in die mense se gesondheid en in die mense se werklike behoeftes belangstel en nie in hulle eie sakke en hulle eie politieke ideologie nie. Ek dankie.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable UTM. Honorable ATM. Honorable H. Ismail.
Thank you, Chair. Health is a fundamental human right guaranteed by the Constitution and is indispensable for the exercise of other human rights. Unfortunately, the country's health services have been severely hampered by incompetence and irregularities. To add insult to injury, South Africa has failed to protect the men and women who bravely expose these irregularities and corruption at a great risk to themselves. Babita Deokaran paid with her life when she exposed millions upon millions of rands of Gauteng Department of Health. She discovered suspicious payments amounting to 850 million rand. Despite the great personal risk, she alerted to superiors and the department and requested the auditing of invoices before payment. Her requests were reportedly ignored, and payments continued to flow to suspicious companies. She later told colleagues that she feared for her life, yet the reports show that nothing was done to guarantee her safety. Dr. Tim de Meyer faced disciplinary action for his open letter decrying not only the horrific conditions at the Rahima Musa Hospital in Gauteng, but also the failure of the department and his superiors to act on years of reports of declining infrastructure and equipment that endangered patients' lives. If not for public intervention, Dr. de Meyer might well have lost his job. Graft and impunity run deep in South Africa's public health sector. And even a worldwide NDE and other funds, the multi-million digital vibe scandal being one of several examples. In fact, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's report on state capture has shown how extensive the rot of corruption really is. According to a report by Corruption Watch, Between 2012 and 2019, 670 whistleblower reports were filed regarding corruption in the South African healthcare system. And despite this report, the Zondo report, and multiple instances of corruption exposed in the media, the department's strategy to protect whistleblowers remain opaque. The department is scant on details regarding its collaboration with the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime to establish a policy plan to protect whistleblowers and assess and mitigate risks in the public healthcare sector procurement system. The AG has filed fruitless and wasteful expenditure of 1.5 million rand and irregular expenditure totaling 16.6 million rand. Yet, there are no serious efforts regarding consequence management. Despite a significant portion of the budget allocated towards healthcare, the ANC's only investment seems to be in the deployment of cadres and the development of policies that they neither have the political will nor the skill to fully implement and manage. Brave individuals like Babita Deokaran have died to expose the deep systematic failures. Yet, more than a year later, whistleblowers remain as exposed as they were the day she was brutally murdered. The ANC government has lost the plot. The people of this country deserve much better. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I now recognize Honorable K.L. Jacobs. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson.
I will start.
It is evident from various provincial and national reports, can you hear me, that medical negligence claims are on the rise in South Africa. We need to protect public health care in South Africa from collapse due to out-of-control negligence claims. If this threat's root causes are not addressed, several provincial health departments will collapse. This is a very complex problem and there is no single solution. It is only 30 years since South Africa transitioned to a constitutional democracy by adopting its very progressive Bill of Rights. This has led to an increased awareness of the rights of citizens. However, one of the unintended consequences of the evolution of a rights-based society is that the citizenry now resorts more to litigation to realize their rights, including in the health sector. This rapid upsurge in medical legal claims is now threatening the survival of both the public and private health sectors. It is making it extremely difficult for the state to realize the rights as enshrined in sections 27 and 28, because the money that should be used for healthcare providers for provision is used to settle litigation claims. The ANC government has ensured that we have these rights through the many laws which have been enacted, including the National Health Act, Consumer Protection Act, Promotion of Access to Information Act, Children's Act, Mental Health Care Act, and Protection of Personal Information Act. Medical malpractice claims in our courts are primarily based on negligence. They base their claims on harm sustained by the plaintiff, conduct on the party of the defendant, which is wrongful, a causal connection between the conduct and the plaintiff's harm, and fault or blameworthiness on the part of the defendant. The drivers and cause of medical legal claims and importance of enhanced skills development are multifold, including the dissipation of the personal doctor-patient relationship, which influences the intent to litigate, for example, when patients perceive the doctor as impersonal or not professional. Such doctors usually cannot fully communicate with patients regarding risk and adverse events. The widespread poverty gives the patient more motivation to pursue litigation to escape poverty and can easily be convinced by untruthful and unscrupulous lawyers that they have a winnable case. South African law serves as a driver of medical litigation. South Africa currently does not have legislation that deals with medical negligence. This increase in what is called delictual claims in South African law, the law of delict, engages primarily with the circumstances in which one person can claim compensation from another for harm that has been suffered. And the quantum demanded by lawyers against health departments in South Africa is primarily ascribed to the absence of legislation that could deal with medical negligence. The Road Accident Fund, for example, which was once a very lucrative fund for lawyers, was amended in 2005 and claims are now capped. This led lawyers to explore other forms of personal injury like medical negligence, possibly, and the large sums that can be claimed as further motivation. Under common law and the law of delict, there is no limit to what can be claimed by lawyers. Under delict, they may claim general damages for shock, pain, suffering, and loss of amenities of life, which are all very subjective. The Contingency Fees Act allows people who are indigent to access the justice system and then brings claims against the state for alleged negligence. These lawyers are aware that the law of contractual damages does not allow them to exploit it. Therefore, they exploit the law of delict. Other SA compensation laws, for example, COIDA and ODIMWA, which is the Occupational Diseases and Injury in Mine Workers Act, and COIDA, the Compensation for Occupational Diseases Act, also deal with cap claims. We need to combat the negative practices in the legal fraternity exploiting the healthcare system. In order to address the tsunami of medical legal claims, I want to suggest the following in terms of legislation, is that we should develop legislation that deals with medical negligence, fast-track the state liability law, cap the amount of compensation that can be claimed and motivate for periodic payments instead of lump sum payments, or render healthcare instead of money. Build capacity to address medical legal claims and strengthen policies and regulations. Combat the negative practices of some lawyers. For example, there are speculations of false claims in general, claims of children born in hospitals when they actually were born at home, attempts to litigate the same case twice, sending persons to healthcare facilities to look for patients with personal injuries, mothers of children with cerebral palsy, collusion with staff members to steal patients' records. Such practices are prohibited in the Code of Conduct for all legal practitioners, candidate legal practitioners, and juristic entities. On medical records, minimize the handling of records by patients, digitize hospital patient administration systems, medical records, electronic scripting, and dispensing electronic referral systems. Digitize the birth process when the mother is in labor with a centralized computer system in the ward to be accessed biometrically or with a password. Ensure security of medical records, control access to sensitive or vulnerable areas. On hospital staff, ensure that the human resources for health match the number of patients seen by both medical and nursing workers, and that they are well trained. On provincial departments, that they should ensure that they establish medical legal units per district. On the South African Law Reform Commission, they should give an annual update on the progress of the development of bills for medical negligence. And then the role of alternative dispute resolution and medical negligence claims, which in February 2020, the uniform roles of the court were changed to allow mediation to be used for conflict resolution. It mandates parties involved in the dispute to consider mediation as a form of a key. It also sets out the process of how this should occur. It has to be promoted more intently. The African National Congress is not against medical legal claims, as they support persons who would have experienced a particular injustice. For this reason, the Director General of the World Health Organization said a free environment must be created where healthcare workers are empowered and trained to reduce errors. Honorable Temekwayo omits to state that the private members' bill on 24-hour clinics was not approved because a socio-economic impact assessment was not performed. The ANC is committed to improved quality health care for all people, and the ANC is addressing this need through the implementation of the National Health Insurance as a funding mechanism to bring this health care to all. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Majosi or Honorable Ngobo, if you may assist with indicate who's going to take up the space for Honorable M Hlengwa. Honorable members, we shall proceed. Okay, after Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Honorable, I now recognize Honorable A.M. Sheikh Imam. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, House Chairperson. House Chairperson, I must agree with Dr. Jacobs, Honorable Dr. Jacobs. There is a massive increase in medical legal claims. And just like the road accident fund was exploited and abused, it's exactly the same thing happening in the healthcare sector. To such an extent, even in the private sector, particularly gynecologists are leaving and going abroad because of the risks of claims against them. But having said that, Chairperson, universal healthcare, we must agree, yes, it is the policy of the ANC, and many of us would love to have universal health coverage in the country to ensure that everybody has equal quality healthcare. At the moment, quality healthcare is only there for the privileged and those that can afford it. And I can tell you how painful it is to hear of people that go to hospital and because of age are turned away when they are told that we cannot waste money on you or do much on you because of your age. And people are getting turned away. When will this department look at a preventative healthcare system rather than a curative? And I know the former Minister of Health, Honorable Motsoaledi, that is the direction he was going in. Look at the prevalence of diabetes in this country, House Chairperson. And yet this department will do nothing to put some restrictions on food products that are manufactured, like fizzy drinks, Coca-Cola, 9 teaspoons of sugar in 1 can of Coke. Very little or nothing is happening to deal with these problems. Are you telling me to go, Chairperson, because I see you on there, or have I still got time?
No, you've got 2 minutes for now.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. When I see you, I think it's time actually for me to go.
No,
now
look at me.
Look at what is happening in the Baragwanath Hospital, where surgeries had to be postponed just because they could not find clean linen. Healthcare workers have to take or keep 2 jobs, one in the private sector, one in the public sector, because they are not well taken care of and paid well. The health department cannot attract enough medical practitioners and healthcare workers in order to roll out the NHI. And if you look at the crumbling infrastructure, which we have failed to maintain over a couple of years, or the last 20 some odd years, primary healthcare is not in good quality whatsoever. So the question is, when are we going to change direction and prevent our people from getting sick and ending up in hospital? When can we create a system so that our people will live healthy, eat healthy, exercise, and be more productive in society? This thing of, putting people into hospital, Chairperson, we cannot even provide adequate medicine. That is why you have so much of stockouts in the hospitals. Look at the impact just on what we eat and what we drink is having on the healthcare in the country. Shouldn't we follow the example of Cuba with its preventative system? And that is why we even import healthcare workers and experts from there as well. So I think, Chairperson, it's time that we looked at our policies and change direction and create a healthier society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable S.M. Jafta.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, the Department of Health faces a number of challenges, both at the national and provincial levels. Despite provinces being allocated 6.8 billion in direct conditional grants by the department in this year's budget vote in order to, I quote, revitalize, maintain hospitals, clinics, and other facilities, close quote, there are glaring challenges of inadequate medical equipment, staff shortages, and corruption in most of our public hospitals and clinics. Concerns around medical legal claims are also valid and cannot be brushed aside. The effect of these claims, as the minister noted in his budget vote earlier this year, causes untold, I quote, drain on vital and scarce resources to save lives, close quote. As we heard from the minister, the key intervention includes improved clinical management and record keeping. There is also an emerging trend of collusion between healthcare workers and legal firms, which not only borders on corruption, but also on an attempt to cripple the healthcare services. The oncology backlogs in KZN, which have resulted in the province partnering with private hospitals to address this problem, takes away resources from the province and deprives it ample space to build internal capacity and specialization. We have also not forgotten about the digital vibe scandal and expect that money looted there will be recovered without fear or favor. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jefta. I now recognize Honorable Ngobo on behalf of M Hlengwa. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and sorry for the glitches. Under Section 27 of the Constitution, the citizens of South Africa have constitutional right to access healthcare services. This right is central to the department, and it is critical that it remains at the forefront of our debate today. When issues such as corruption, poor management, backlogs in medical procedures, and mountains of medico-legal claims come before this parliament in relation to the department, we are not only talking about statistics and rands. Fundamentally, we are talking about the lives of the people of South Africa. Minister, you have revealed that upwards of 121.5 million rand has been stolen in 76 different cases of corruption in public hospitals nationwide since January 2020. Whistleblowers are left vulnerable and become targets. Babita Deokaran, who courageously highlighted 850 million rand in transactions, was then ruthlessly murdered days later. This is on top of the 1.3 billion rand in irregular expenditure of the department in the past financial year. The total expenditure for employee compensation in 2021-22 was 848 million rand. That means the department could have completely eradicated the personnel shortages if it is simply rooted out corruption and implemented effective monitoring systems. The AG reported more than 15,000 medico-legal claims to the value of 125.3 billion rand, of which departments have only paid 855.9 million rand. This problem is attributed to both an underutilization of the case management system, as well as the lack of policy and legal framework to manage these claims. This is unacceptable, as the development and rollout of the case management system was paid for. However, only one province is fully using this system. A lack of monitoring on the implementation of this system has rendered the money spent on it fruitless and wasteful. The department is here to facilitate the health and healing of South Africans. However, it has become a vessel for selfish crime and corruption. The department must manage its projects in a legally compliant way, and those who are responsible for corruption and mismanagement must be held accountable. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mapoloba. I now recognize Honorable E.R. Wessels. Over to you, ma'am.
Honorable Wilson, I think you mean to say, Chair?
Wilson, yes, my apology. Yeah, I now recognize Honorable E.R. Wilson. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. We are killing people and crippling families. When we cannot treat children in the ICU because of no staff, we send them to a general ward and tell the parents they will likely die. These are just two of the statements we heard by doctors in our recent oversight at hospitals in Nelson Mandela Bay. Apart from corruption and maladministration, the collapse of health in the Eastern Cape, and indeed the country, is as a result of medico-legal claims. In the Eastern Cape, in just 45 claims of the thousands of claims that are still to go to court, The department was sued for 500 million in negligence claims. Of these 45 claims, the department has won just 2. In the 43 cases they lost, the department was told they must settle on merits, as the department has no legal basis to defend the matter, and in several, the patient files of the complainants could not be found. They are now bankrupt. For every case, the department is paying 1.5 million rand in legal fees, adding to the millions now to be paid. The result is appalling conditions in hospitals, which are underfunded and understaffed. It is little wonder that these hospitals were referred to as the hospitals of death. We heard that often. However, it appears that no one is dealing with one critical reality. Medico claims are leading to more medico-legal claims. Orthopedics who cannot operate because of no implants. ENT surgeons who have to operate on children when there are no lights in their theatres. Children who die because they cannot be treated in ICU because of understaffing will lead to more medico-legal claims. Every claim lost leads to further staffing cuts, less equipment made available, and no maintenance. Every corrupt lawyer is jumping on the claims wagon. They know that the records are appalling and unlikely to be found. They know that the hospitals are understaffed and under-equipped, and they will make up claims, and they do. This has led to state capture of an entirely different level. The country sits with 125 billion rand in legal claims as a result of cadre deployment, corruption, maladministration by an ANC government that does not care about the people of this country. And no, NHI is not the answer. Millions has been wasted already on a bill that has not even been passed, including 30 million rand for staffing in one directorate recently. Meanwhile, people are dying and laying maimed in our hospitals. You cannot tax the people of this country to fund your total incompetence. Shame on you. Medico-legal claims won't go away. They are going to escalate and completely kill healthcare. It is now time to vote for the DA and bring an end.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Your time has expired. For fairness and completeness, I'll recognize Honorable Cope, Honorable PAC. I now recognize Honorable DM for Health, Honorable Sibongiseni Dlomo. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. That corruption has not ended in our country does not mean that the ruling party has not done anything about it. In health alone, in 2018, President Cyril Ramaphosa established what we call a Health Sector Anti-Corruption Forum, which has got the following stakeholders: the SIU, Council for Medical Schemes, HPCSA, NPA, Financial Intelligence Service, Directorate for Priority Crimes Investigations, Corruption Watch, Section 27, Board of Healthcare Funders, the all government departments in the provinces on health, the National Treasury, Compensation Fund, state security agencies. So if honorable members continue saying that nothing is done, we will just simply ignore them and tell our citizens that the MPs on the opposition are not being truthful when they say nothing is being done on corruption. In the State of the Nation Address, SONA of 1994, President Nelson Mandela, the very first State of the Nation Address, declared that all pregnant women should access antenatal care free of charge. All under 5 children should be seen and be treated if they are sick free of charge. The impact of this very revolutionary stance is quite huge. Those pronouncements remain in place under this ANC government. Pregnant mothers now come very early to clinics and hospitals. Up to 70% report when they are less than 20 weeks pregnant. The government is able to intervene, and we can proudly say that even if pregnant mothers are HIV positive, they give birth to HIV negative babies. The PMTCT is now sitting at 0.4% in our country. The main beneficiaries of this process has been Black women in general and African women in particular. For Honorable Van Staden, this is what we call a mini NHI, a mini universal health coverage. We'll have a comprehensive NHI for the whole country. We will not abolish anything in this regard. So that part you can really rest assured. However, on issues that are raised by Honorable Jacobs, there are various strategic interventions by the National Department of Health to assist the provinces in dealing with the scourge of medico-legal cases. And these include, among others, the Medico-Legal Summit, the litigation strategy, the Project 141 of the South African Law Reform Commission, the provision of future medical treatments in lieu of future medical expenses, mediation, establishment and expansion of medico-legal units, the transversal tender on medico-legal claims, and the national proclamation in respect of affairs of the Provincial Department of Health on medico-legal. On the medico-legal summit in 2015, Medico-Legal Summit came in with 3 proposed solutions. One was medical solutions that talks to the safety of patients. So we recognize, Honorable Wilson, what you are saying, the safety of patients is key. Number 2, the administration solution, where it actually says we must ensure the proper record keeping. So that part we have already started in areas where we are now making records being electronic. The last one on the third is the legal solution. That looks at various legal interventions, including, but not limited to, mediation, contingency fees, and other processes. On the litigation strategy, there's quite a lot of work that has been done. South African Law Reform Commission, Project 141, actually was an establishment of a tribunal on specialized court, which explores the possibility of legal reform for the removal of common law once and for all rule. The establishment of National Litigation Authority, looking into compulsory mediation, capping of claims, and also there has then been processes that I really need to actually update the honorable members here that in 2018, there was a state liability amendment bill, that this bill came to Parliament. That was before our times in the previous administration. And this state liability bill, we actually hope it will assist in alleviating pressures from provincial budgets in terms of medical legal claims. The Department of Health nationally has been providing technical support to the Department of Justice, which is the one that is really pioneering this work. However, during the discussions, the Portfolio Committee on Justice had indicated that they do not want to do the piecemeal amendments and therefore would want to wait for the whole process. We were also then disappointed in May this year when the Minister of Justice wrote a letter to the Minister of Health in which he indicated that his intention was to withdraw this bill from parliamentary process. In June this year, our minister wrote back to the Minister of Justice indicating that the National Department of Health does not support the withdrawal of the bill from the parliamentary process, because he further indicated that this bill is very critical legislation that will assist the state to deal with the scourge of medical legal claims in our country. We still await the processing of this, and we hope that those discussions will really be fruitful. Now, further on, the South African Law Reform Commission has organized various workshops this year in all our provinces where they would really want to get views of South Africans with regards to some of the matters that have been raised by the honorable members here. Now, there's a very important development. The National Department of Health has published public health facilities that, and it was on the Government Gazette number 42687 of the 5th of September 2019, where we are saying we want to guarantee you that there will be a future, the future medical services could be provided very securely in these areas, in these various hospitals, because almost 80% of what is paid on medical legal claims is the quantum that goes to future medical expenses. Now, the court, therefore, there has been a decision to support us to say, give us what we want to do and how we want to deal with that. The Constitutional Court, therefore, decision has bolstered the position where we want to say as a public health, we have public health facilities that could actually guarantee future medical expenses, and we not necessarily have to pay that all in monetary terms. And Charlotte Maxeke and many other hospitals that I could probably look into has been highlighted as a hospital where we could actually provide future medical expenses to support South Africans in that regard. There has already been 18 officials across all provinces who have already been trained on process of mediation. The National Treasury is very supportive of these processes. It, among other things, secured a study that was funded by the Clinton Health Access Initiative CHI, looking into investigating the causes and the extent of the medico-legal crisis in our country. We would like to actually indicate that we await the actual outcome of that investigation. In terms of other process that we are dealing with is the forensic investigations. Yes, because there are certain very scrupulous lawyers who actually go around the country. So there are investigations that are going in to see whether these are actually very truthful. And so there is a whole package of work that we do with regards to these issues. Now, I just wanted to say, it actually is something very interesting that some members of the opposition, every second sentence that they have in their debate is about the ANC. Now, we would like to leave that to our citizens to decide why they don't debate about their own issues, but raise the issues about the ANC. On the Honorable Sheikh Imam, we really welcome your support for the National Health Insurance, and sometimes you get very concerned as to whether we are really doing this on time and going well on this one. I know that, secondly, Honorable Thembekwayo, there was a matter of the plan of that bill. We need to do proper planning before in the country we can say all facilities can go to 24 hours. In fact, we are closing some of the facilities partially because there's issues of crime around there, and we want to prioritize our nurses not to be taken care of. Honorable Vessels, I would wish that you visit Cuba, because Cuba has provided during COVID support to all countries in the world, including the advanced countries in Europe. In fact, if you could get the statistics, you would know that in the provinces, Western Cape was the best beneficiary of the Cuban brigade in supporting the post. In this country, we do not have primary healthcare focus the way Cuba has, the way primary healthcare. Sorry for Chairperson for taking a bit of your time. I'm not sure whether I've already exhausted my time.
No, you haven't, Dinango, you haven't.
Oh,
you still have got 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Now, I would like therefore to say the processes that we are involved in, these are processes that talk to areas that we have really had a problem with, and we acknowledge that. So I would wish that opposition parties, members from opposition, to welcome our endeavors. And there are some here who have spoken to that, like Honorable Jafta and Honorable Sheikh Imam. You should say you have done so much, but think we have not done enough. Do not come and actually not recognize the strike. Because President Nelson Mandela was not a healthcare worker, was not a healthcare professional, but he was able, just like President Fidel Castro, see the need that if you do not have a healthy country, a healthy nation, you are not going to be able to really strengthen your economic development. So that are very key fundamental issues. Honorable Jacobs, I would wish to really come and maybe present to you all these comprehensive strategies that we put together as a department, because most of your input was to point at the gaps in terms of closing this up, and therefore we would want to actually deal with those issues. Just another one to throw in, I am concerned with the certain thing that was raised by Honorable Wilson, and as she continues to raise some of the issues here, Honorable Wilson pointed out that in our public health hospitals, we are actually using dental floss to suture patients. We are still awaiting to hear where is that, because scientifically there's no way a dental floss that does not have a needle can be used to suture. We are waiting to hear that, Honorable Wilson, because we are really ready to investigate. If it is true, we want to hear that. If it is untrue, then we want the member to apologize, but that time will come when she has provided us with the details of where she found that healthcare workers are using dental floss to suture patients. I thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable DM Dinangwe. I now recognize Honorable P A van Staden. Over to you, sir.
Dankie voorsitter. Ek wil net graag almal bedank wat in hierdie debat deelgeneem het en baie goeie insette gelewer het. Ek dink inteendeel dat member Munyai en hy sal verstaan waar ek vandaan kom, lewe tans in 'n droomwêreld en is nie in voeling met die realiteit nie. That said, therefore, with all that is happening currently in the public healthcare sector, the Freedom Front Plus call on President Ramaphosa to appoint a commission of inquiry in terms of Chapter 5, Section 84(2)(f) of a constitution on the inhumane treatment of patients in state and provincial hospitals, whereas political parties that are represented in Parliament can also submit evidence regarding this matter in order to get rid of this malpractice that is a threat not only to the lives of patients, but also to those medical practitioners, doctors, and nurses that are really dedicated to fulfill their duties under horrible conditions. I thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable van Staden. Honourable members, that concludes the debate and the business of this visual mini-plenary session. The mini-plenary session will now rise. Thank you.
Albongwe.